Welcome everyone to Textiles and Tea with the Handweavers Guild of America. I'm Kathy Group. I'm the host today, and we welcome you all in to Textiles and Tea today. I'm a little discombobulated. I'm having a little camera issue here, so excuse the motion until it settles down. I want to thank our sponsors, Melody Usher and Pam Bisson. Thanks, Melody and Pam. We have more angels here, our Textiles and Tea angels. Melody, Pam, thank you so much for doing this today. It's wonderful to have you as our sponsors. We also want to remind everyone about questions at the end of the program. You can put the questions in the Q&A and I can read them from there. But if you put them in the chat, I can't really see them. So please put your questions in the Q&A and I'll get it to many as I can. We're so excited to have Karen Selk today. Many of you all know Karen from her business of silk. There's nobody who knows more about silk than Karen does. And she's going to talk to us today about all of her many experiences in silk. And we're so excited to have her here today for that. She's provided textile artists and thread that binds together travel, research, writing, artwork, education, and managing her successful business. She's won awards for textiles arts and video productions, Silk Fusion. Karen has shared her love for silk throughout the videos, workshops, lectures, and the many published articles in textile magazines. Her passion has led her through Asia, and she's going to talk some about that today, researching the heritage of a silk tradition, gathering stories from dedicated artisans. This culmination is her book, In Search of Wild Silk, Exploring a Village Industry in the Jungles of India. Karen has shifted her artistic focus from weaving to using silk, plants, photography, and stitching to express the importance of connection with the natural world. She lives in Salish Sea on the Salt Spring Island in Canada. Hey, Karen.
Hi, Kathy.
How are you?
I'm great. And you?
I'm good. I'm good. I have to mention something about where you live. Is there like a artistic fiber magnet right there that just brings people to that little island?
Well, there is. How did you know that? Did you look Salt Spring Island up? It's an amazing community with artists. You name the technique and it's here. It's really a lovely, lovely place to live because our community of artists is very welcoming and supportive. It's really great.
Well, working at HGA, I would see addresses and I'm like, how can this must be a huge island with all these? Because every time I'd see somebody else's name with that address, and then I saw it, it's like, no, it's not really that big. So
no, it's not. It's
just
on
my list of places I want to go. I want to see this place. Well, welcome. We love having you here today, and there's so much to talk about. We're going to have to rush through things to get to everything today. But let's start with the important stuff. What is your favorite tea?
Well, my favorite tea is chai. I've spent a lot of time traveling in India, and this is not the bagged chai, little bags that you can get in the store. We combine 8 of our own spices and make a big pot of chai that lasts us about 2 or 3 days. So my husband
Wow.
is the chai walla in this house. He puts all the different spices together and makes this big pot of chai, and on we go and have our chai just as if we were in India.
There you go. There you go. Oh, somebody wants to know the name of the island. I'm sure I should have said that. It's Salt Spring Island, right?
Correct.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so how did you get started in fiber? You have this involved history, but where did it all begin?
Well, like so many women my age, we started with our aunties and our grandmothers and our mothers. For me, the first thing I did was embroider tea towels. And we were a family that didn't have much money, but were really resourceful. And we used to take feed bags and wash them. They were white, and
Uh-huh.
then put a stencil on and embroider. And because I was a rural child, I belonged to 4-H, so I did sewing in 4-H. And my mom was a sewer, so I learned how to sew from her. And all through high school, again, being a family without a lot of extra income, when I needed new clothing, we went to the store for fabric, and I made a lot of my own clothes.
Yep, I remember those 4-H days. I was in that too. Lucky for us. We're lucky for us that you went there. You were first introduced to silk through weaving, if I'm correct. And you've moved away from the weaving to other fiber processes. So how was it to transition from one weaving, like from weaving to these other processes?
Well, most of us that are weavers, I wove for 40 years and incessantly almost, because it was just so much fun to learn everything, to learn the weave structures, to learn about the fibers. As weavers, I don't think there's any other group of people that really know about fibers the way we do, the way they react, how to handle them, and we're so extremely interested in where they come from because the way they're grown or raised has a whole lot to do with how our cloth is going to feel. So anyway, uh, all during our years of running the business Treenway, I wove and wove using our yarns in lots of different ways so that in the newsletter that I provided for people, I could give them recipes and examples of what to do with the yarns that we had so that people would use them and be successful with what they did. And being in business for all of those years, weaving, one works on a grid. And in a business, there's always deadlines, as you know. So you've got to stick to your deadlines, you've got to stick to your routine and everything else. And when we did sell the business and retired, I thought, I'm going to get rid of the grids in my life. I'm just going to go back to painting and start
Oh,
playing with all kinds of other things and techniques. So
really?
it was an easy transition because what I didn't finish saying that I started out with is that those of us that are involved in fiber, I mean, I'm sure most everybody listening has knitted or crocheted or tried basketry or done a little bit of quilting or did macrame. I mean, some of us have died, and thank God we're living again. But we all have dabbled to see what really suits us. So it wasn't a difficult transition. The fingers are always working.
That's true. I don't think I've ever met a weaver who only did one thing.
Yeah,
Or for that
exactly.
matter, a crocheter who only did one thing. Everybody does something.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Um, you this first picture we're going to look at is art is silk fusion, and we're going to see a lot of that today. And you're pretty well known for this. This is much of your artwork. So can you just kind of give a brief description so people understand what is silk fusion?
Okay. I did a lot of this when we had the business as well, again, to introduce people to the fiber and another way to use fiber other than spinning. Everybody knows, I think, about felting and how we get felt. You lay out a roving of carded and combed wool fibers. And then through agitation and soap and water, those fibers stick together and create another piece of cloth, which we call felt.
Mm.
Silk doesn't do that. Wool has these little, the word is wrong. I'm using the word barb, but everybody knows what scales. They have these little scales, and what those scales love to do when you put the silk in, sorry, the wool in water is they like to cling to each other. And so therefore, the fibers do cling to each other and we get a felt. Silk, when you look at it under a microscope, looks like a smooth glass rod. And so it doesn't have those scales. You put it in the water and those fibers do not want to stick to each other. So to make silk fusion, you still lay out the fibers the way you might felt. So you take your roving and you lay it out nice and smoothly. I guess I need to back up a step here. You need to hold those fibers. You need to sandwich them in something. So I use a screen, like a window screen. Lay those fibers out so that they're nice and smooth to get started. And
Huh.
then you put screen on top, treat it with soap and water so that the fibers open up and are ready to accept a textile medium, which is sort of like a watered down glue. And then you hang it up to dry and peel it out when it's dry, and voila, you have this amazing fabric that you can paint, manipulate, cut. And when you cut it, there's no raw edges. So it's just a whole nother substrate to work with.
Wow. And just a screen. Wow.
Yep, and just a screen. So that it holds the fibers together because you have to manipulate with that soap and water. And then
Uh-huh.
you take the majority of that soap and water off with a sponge and then brush on the textile medium. And so all of these fibers have to be held together while you're doing all that. And the piece we're looking at here, the background piece is red. That's a piece of red silk fusion. And then the turquoise and the oranges and the yellows, that's another piece of textile fusion that I cut. And then here's another word we, know about, and then applique that onto the base silk fusion, which is the red silk fusion. So again, you can do all kinds of amazing things with the silk fusion.
Well, this is just amazing. It's beautiful. Um, and we're going to talk, I love the color, and we're going to talk some more about that later too. Um, does the ability to make more realistic images one of the reasons why you went to silk fusion? Here's a great example of this. This is again, the colors are amazing, but it's so realistic. Was that one of the reasons why you liked silk fusion, or was that just a byproduct?
No, I think that is, we all have a lot to say about what's important to us. And
Mhm.
I wasn't quite able to get that across in a woven fabric. And this was a group project that we did, and it had to do with relating to our home. And up the coast from where I live on the Big Island, we call it the Big Island, Vancouver Island, is a beach called Botanical Beach. And Botanical Beach is made of a lot of sandstone. So the ocean constantly coming in and working away at that sandstone has made these amazing tide pools. And when the tide is low, you have this whole amazing surface that you can walk on. It's sandstone, but there's not boulders. It's rather flat. And as you walk, it's like being in an aquarium, except you're looking down into these tidal pools, and it's filled with starfish and anemones. And if you're lucky, we've got a huge number of octopus that live on this particular coast. If you're lucky, you'll see an octopus, but there's all these kinds of wonderful sea creatures that you see. And so this was just me expressing my love for that particular area. And again, hoping that people look at things like this and go, oh, we really need to work hard to protect that particular coast.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, the addition of the embroidery and the sewing techniques, it really enhances the image. It just kind of makes the image pop out. Um, and I think you talked about you have a sewing background, right?
Yes, I do. Well, yes, the 4-H and my mom and yeah.
So
There's an
did
organ.
that kind of just come to your mind automatically of I can do more with this. I can sew on this. I can add beads or whatever.
Yep, exactly. And I use a lot of hand stitch and I do machine stitch as well. And as you can see, that last piece and this piece, well, all three pieces that we looked at are also quilted. That's what gives them the
Hmm.
puffy look. Now, I also belong to a group called SACWA. Oh my goodness, Studio Art Quilt Association.
Uh-huh.
And every once in a while, they have a call open for people to put in artwork. And this one was called something about Nature's Conservancy. And at the time, we had this terrible thing that occurred. We have a pod of orcas where we live. It's called J pod. And J pod lives only on a particular kind of salmon called Chinook salmon. And the Chinook salmon are declining. And so our J pod is in trouble. And the biggest whale that you see in the middle there, if you look closely, you can see there's a teeny baby whale just behind her nose. Well, that mother whale had this baby, and the whole West Coast, from Seattle up through British Columbia, we share J-Pod. We were so excited about this mother whale. Her name was Telqua, having this baby. Well, her baby died within a couple of hours, and no one has ever seen this happen before. She carried her baby on her head. Now, someone can correct me. I think it was for 21 or 22 days, and the rest of the pod
Oh,
supported her by feeding her and keeping the baby above the water. I mean, she was trying so hard to keep her baby alive. This piece I called Tears for Talqua, the mother. And yeah, it was just so great to be able to express how heartening it was to see this amazing reaction from this orca whale trying to keep her a baby alive for all of these days.
oh, what a story. Oh man. Oh,
I know,
when
I know. It was really hard for me to get through that without my voice shaking
I know
because
it's like, no. I wanted you
I
to
know,
say, and then the baby came back to life and it's all
no,
fine.
no, no.
Oh,
And no one has ever recorded a mother whale carrying their dead baby for so long before. Telqua was really special. And since then, Telqua has had another baby. So we're all very
okay.
excited and it made
Okay.
it.
Mandy, can you bring that slide back up for just a second? I want to point out something because we're going to talk about color. And I wanted people to see the bottom of this, the little fish. Now, is that dyed?
No.
Okay.
When you make silk fusion, you
Uh-huh.
can stick other things in with it and they'll stay. Now this was organza. They're the ghost. The idea of that is those are the ghost Chinook salmon that are disappearing. So those are the ghost salmon, and it was silk organza that actually sort of glue, when I put the textile medium on, it glued itself right into the piece. So I think that's what you're talking about, those ghost salmon.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lovely detail, very subtle. That's lovely. Well, I wanted to talk about color because the last three images we've looked at, they're so colorful, they're so rich in color. And I was curious because you do your own dyeing, right?
Well, I do some of my own dyeing.
Okay.
The dyed fibers that I use for the silk fusion, most of those I get from Treenway, and some of them I do dye myself. Now, the piece that you see on the left there,
Mm.
when maples fly, I call that one. Uh, I think the only thing that I dyed in there was the indigo blue. And in the piece on the upper right-hand side, that's all something that I have dyed, but I put the dye right on the plants before I printed it. I thickened the natural dyes, brushed it on, and then laid the plant material right on the silk, rolled it around a dowel and steamed it. And so that's where that color comes from. And then the bottom right hand, that's all fiber that has been dyed by Treenway. And the foxglove, that the three-dimensional, I don't know if people can really see that, the three-dimensional foxgloves, those are actually cocoons that I dyed and cut to make look like foxgloves. And we've got them all over on the West Coast. And I don't know if everybody all across the country knows what they are, but each one of those cocoons, the flower is this amazing little downward turned trumpet, let's say. And the bees just love crawling up in it to get their pollen and nectar.
So did you just experiment and go, oh, I think I'll try this? Or are these techniques, because my ignorance is showing here of what little I know about silk fusion and dyeing and all this, but these are some really kind of outside the box ideas. Was this just trial and error on your part? Did you know other people who did this? How did you come up with some of these techniques?
Well, the silk fusion, it actually started with a woman in, I think it was the Netherlands, and she put silk together using wallpaper paste. And so the silk was really stiff and difficult. Then the next woman who really started to work with it was Nancy Ballesteros from Australia. And I learned how to do the silk fusion from her at a conference. I think it could have been a convergence. She was there with her booth, and I watched and I learned. And then, we all take things off in our own directions. And so because you can do so many different things with it when it's wet, you can actually shape it around things and make it into vessels and give it shapes like starfish and shells and everything else. So I just play and I experiment. And again, the foxglove on the bottom there, I wanted more texture. So I used some silk fiber and I needle felted it into the background silk fusion. So, you know, the silk fusion is your oyster, I guess.
I'm just kind of staring at it all. It's so pretty. The other thing I noticed is that a lot of these, especially your botanical prints, but they're all nature based. So I'm assuming, and where you live, I'm assuming that nature is really important to you, that
It
it's an
is.
important part of your life.
Yeah, it is, and it always has been ever since
Has
I
it?
was a little girl. Yeah, my dad and I used to walk through the woods, and he knew about plants. He would tell me what plants were good for different things like medicine or the names of them. And as a child, I was just so fascinated and so interested. And we always had a veggie garden, and I was the one that worked in the veggie garden with my dad. So I've always had this amazing, what is the word I'm looking for? More than attraction, that just this amazing feeling for plants. They're just so they give us everything. We wouldn't exist without plants. We wouldn't have air to breathe without plants. We wouldn't have food to eat without plants. We wouldn't have shelter without plants. Our whole existence revolves around plants. So I have a very special affinity for them. And the piece that we're looking at right now, I'll tell you, do we have time for me to tell you a little bit about
Oh,
botanical printing?
we want to hear stories. Come on.
Okay, okay, okay. So this is absolutely amazing. And I learned this technique after I finished writing the book. I really needed to do something for myself because I had just been focused for, whatever it was, 2 or 3 years getting this thing to print. And so I learned about this technique, I don't know, somewhere on the internet, who knows, in a magazine, I can't remember. But I took a course with a woman from Israel named Irit Dalman, and this was all online. And so I learned how to do this. And you treat your background cloth, the cloth that you're going to put your prints on, you treat with minerals, alum and iron, and nothing is toxic, alum and iron. And the different amounts of iron that you put in your cloth will make a difference as to what the background looks like and what your prints are going to look like. Now, alum you must have, just like you need to have in natural dyeing, because that means the plants will bite on to your background cloth. And so those two things, treat the background cloth. Then I know the plants in my area and my garden so well. I know what colors they're going to give me. Those purple colors, those of you that are plants women, those are from smoke bush. And the darker colors are from horse chestnut, which people might recognize. And the orange is from an orange cosmos called sulfurous cosmos. And then what's really interesting is some plants have a lot of acid in them. And those columbine leaves, those nice little curly leaves, that's columbine. They have a lot of acid in. And so when you put leaves that have acid on that target cloth, that background cloth, that acid will actually remove some of the mordant. And leaves that have a lot of tannin in them, like the horse chestnut leaves, they will become darker. Okay, so we've got this cloth, we've got our leaves on, and I always, look at my pattern. Okay, where do I want this color? Where do I want that color? How do I want things to flow? You know how we all work. Then you put a blanket on top of that. Now, this summer, I've been experimenting totally with dye blankets using lac and cochineal and dogwood and weld, all these wonderful natural dyes. But the years before that, I worked only with tannin blankets. Now, tannin is the thing that stains your teacup, the regular kind of tea that we drink. And there's so many plants that have tannins in them. There's gall nut, there's pomegranate skins, uh, tea, black tea. You can boil up black tea. Okay, so we've got these tannins. And I choose a tannin and I get them from Maywa handprints. I get it in a powder form. And I take the blanket and I soak it in the tannin. I lay it on top of the fabric that has the leaves, and I roll everything around a dowel, and I bind it really, really tightly with string and an elastic bandage. And then I put it in, I've got a fish steamer, and I just call it a fish steamer because it's long and narrow, so I can get at least 22-inch dowel in it. Put that in the steamer and steam it for anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. And when I put it in the steamer, I bow my head and I say, I'm grateful for what you give me, because this is Mother Nature. I
Yeah.
have I have what I think is a clue how it's going to turn out, but I am surprised so many times because it depends on the time of year. It depends on how much water we've had. I mean, I could go on and on about the
Yeah.
variable. So after I take it out of the pot, I unbind everything, I unwrap it, and this is what you get. It's light fast, it's wash fast. This is what the leaves have decided to give up at that particular time of year and put on the cloth. Isn't it just a little bit of magic? Don't you love it?
Well, when I first saw it, I thought, oh, she's glued leaves to a piece of cloth. I mean, because of the detail, all the tiny little, shading and everything. It's very three-dimensional. I mean, looking at it on a computer screen.
I know. Well, and even looking at it in life, it's interesting. People go either to the art gallery. I have an art gallery that has these things, or they come to the studio and they walk up close and they do put their finger on it because they think there's something on there. And then other people say, well, how did you get that photograph? It's so big.
Oh,
And what the great outline of, say, those light leaves that, there's 6 and 8 right along a stem, there's a little bit of tannin that comes
mm.
out of that leaf during the steaming, and it makes this amazing outline around the leaf. So that's what gives this really great three-dimensional look about it. pretty fascinating. And like I said, every time I put something in the pot, I bow and I say, I'm grateful for what you give me, because how can you ever really tell with all the
Yeah,
variants there are?
yeah, you don't know. Well,
No.
Ramona's asked a question, and I just saw it popped up, and I'm asking the same question. What is a dye blanket?
Okay, it's just another piece of cloth. So I've got the cloth that we put the leaves on. In botanical printing, we call that the target cloth. Okay, so there's the target cloth. You put your leaves on. And then the blanket is a whole nother piece of cloth, the same size. I usually make it a little bit bigger. It's a whole nother piece of cloth that I soak in the tannin,
Oh,
or
okay.
as I'm experimenting with this summer, wring it out, lay it on top of the target cloth and the leaves, and roll it all up together. So I've got the sandwich of target cloth, leaves, and then the blanket, and then it all gets rolled around the dowel. Good question.
Oh, that's amazing. And where do I sign up for this workshop, Karen? So you can teach me how to do this?
Her
Oh, I
name
have to come out to where you are? Oh, hate that, but I'll be there.
is
All right. And you know what's so funny? You talk about all these processes, and it's like no matter what you do, the one constant is silk. Why why does that stay constant for you? No matter what your process is, it involves silk. Why is that?
Silk and I just go together. I don't know. I love everything about it. Not only the feel, uh, but again, I realized the first time I went to India and I started looking at different textile techniques. I not only India, I guess my travels to Asia, I realized I'm a process girl. I
Oh,
really love to know how things are done. And you don't really think about that so much about yourself until someone tries to explain something to you. And I always go, well, let's go back a step. Let's go back a step. I'm so interested. How did you start that? How did we go through? And so as I traveled, it didn't matter whether I saw in Thailand someone making these wonderful flat rice things that we make salad rolls out of. I mean, that process is amazing. In India, I saw how they made saffron. That's amazing. So, and in China, I saw how they made bricks. That was amazing. It's just, I'm I'm a process girl. So, Silk, back to your question. I have a tendency to do this rambling thing. So please
I'm
feel free to
happy.
get
Keep
me
going.
right back on track if we need to. Um, Again, it's the whole process. Just think about this coming from an insect. And when I started to learn about silk, there was all these myths about where it had come from, that it was the runny stuff from dogs' eyes, or that it was, all these gross, weird things where silk came from. So it's just the process. I need a drink of tea here. From beginning to end, from the caterpillar all the way to the yarn. And then because of the business that we had, and we were known for silk, I mean, that just really helped me just want to dive in more and more and more. And then to do that, I needed to travel to where they worked with silk, and that was all of Asia and South Asia, so that I could learn from the masters, the
Mm.
people that have been working with silk for years and years. So I could learn not only the process, but everything behind it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And in everything we do, I mean, just talking about botanical printing and now talking about silk and the silkworms, there's this whole other aspect. There's this whole scientific aspect about everything. It's somewhat magical, but there's alchemy and chemistry and um, all this other amazing stuff that I hated in school. I absolutely hated in school. But now I find it so fascinating that iron and tannin have this amazing bond with each other, and that's what gives the background color to the cloth. And all these amazing things.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
yeah, it just
That's
makes me
cool.
want to learn more about stuff.
Well, we're going to jump around here, Mandy. I'm sorry, but I wanted to go to your book because you wrote a book in 2022 that, I mean, I'm still going through it. I read some and then I go back, and I read some and I go back. It's an amazing accumulation of, it's an overview about silk. I learned more in 3 pages than I've ever known about silk. And it's great accounts of your journey and what you went through and how you planned it and that sort of thing. So, um, and it sounded like, correct me if I'm wrong, that you kind of went because you wanted to see, how do they unravel that cocoon? It's kind of like you wanted to know the basics when you went. But then when you got there, it's like you wanted to know more. And one of the things I read that you talked about, and hang in there with me, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, is the rearer. It's Rearer, I believe, the rearer. And they are the people who grow the worms, right?
That's right.
Right.
The other,
So you said you wanted to learn more about them, and that kind of changed everything for you, right?
it did, because all of a sudden it wasn't just this worm, it was their carers. So another word for rearer could be farmer, because this is actually an agricultural product. There are farmers that have to care for these insects. And so then there's the whole human aspect. And quite often there are a lot of books about silk. Not they're not like my book, but it's about silk fabric and the Silk Road and luxurious silk and what it's done all throughout history. But no one has really talked about the rearers or the farmers, the people behind the scenes that actually care for these insects. And wild silk is very different than the cultivated silk, the white silk that most of us work with. Now, I've learned a lot about the cultivated silk as well, and that is also all done by farmers. Now, do you want me to talk a little bit about take 5 minutes and talk about the raising of silkworms, or are we going on from here?
No, go for it.
Okay, okay. The amazing thing is that the egg is about the size of a sesame seed. And then I'm going to talk about the white silk, and then I'll just mention the wild silk. And the only food they eat is mulberry leaves. And so the farmers have to chop that up. Now, when these little babies hatch, their rate of survival is not very high,
Oh,
because
really?
yeah, really, because they're grown in people's barns or sheds, or now some people have environmentally controlled buildings. But there's so much. These are delicate little caterpillars when they're babies. There's the so much that can harm them. And so there's a 30-day period where they eat nonstop. So the farmers are feeding them all the time. And because they're eating nonstop, because they grow from that sesame seed, the diameter of your thumb, and about 3 inches long in 30 days. So they're just eating, eating, eating. And like snakes, the only time they stop is when they shed their skin. They grow so fast, they have to shed their skin can't keep up with them. And after the 30 days, oh, and what I was going to say is they're eating nonstop, so they're producing manure nonstop. And of course, the farmers have to keep all of that clean for them as well. And then after the 30 days, they spin their cocoon, which is their metamorphosis home. And they go through the process of becoming a moth. And that only lasts for about 2 weeks. The moths break out, they mate, lay eggs, and we start the cycle all over again. Now, wild silk is so extremely special because these caterpillars refuse to do any of that stuff indoors. They refuse to have people bring leaves to them and feed them in trays. They have to eat out in the woods, out in the forest, in the wild, on the trees. That's what they prefer to do. They won't eat off of a tray. And so the rearers or the farmers are out there 24/7 with slingshots and noisemakers and bows and arrows to keep the birds and the snakes and the bears and wasps. They got sticky sticks that they collect wasps from. And so it's a whole other level of rearing silk. But the wild silk is so, so different. It has an amazing color to it, and it has an amazing texture to it. And these farmers or rearers just care so much about their silkworms. It's been what they've done for millennia. Uh, and it's part of everything, not only their income, but their spirituality and their whole village life. So, what was the question? Did I answer it?
You did, you
Oh,
did,
good, oh, good, oh,
you
good.
did.
I told you I ramble, I can get
No,
off on a tangent and ramble.
that's what I was curious about. Like, I love it that when you, whether it's traveling or taking up a craft or whatever, you think you're going to go this way, and then all of a sudden you go that way or this way, or in your case, this way. And you just learned so much, and it was just a whole new experience, right? Rather
Oh,
than, oh, let's get the facts. Now it's a whole new experience.
yeah, absolutely. The facts count, but the people really count, because we'd have no facts without the people.
Right, right. Well, I love the comparison of the domestic silk versus the wild silk. And the domestic silk, like you said, it can't live outdoors. And it is pampered, it's fed all the time. And it just has one task to do and that kind of thing. Whereas the wild silk, like you were saying, is just the opposite. They don't want to be indoors, they can't be indoors, and they kind of do their own thing. So my question is, which one are you? Are you the wild silk or are you the domesticated silk?
Oh, that's easy. I'm the wild silk. From April through October, I even sleep outside.
Oh, there
We
you
eat
go.
all, we eat all of our meals outside. I garden outside. I'm much more like the wild one.
When we were rehearsing, I told Karen I want a little embroidered, you have those little like no place like home things you embroider and put it up on the wall. Mine would say something like, some days I just want to be domestic silk. I want to lay around, eat, and be pampered, you know. And then
I
some
know
days
we
I want to be the wild silk.
I know we say in our household, on those days when you want to be pampered, we say, "Oh, where are the bonbons and the mint juleps?" I don't even know what a mint julep is, but where are the bonbons and the mint juleps?
That's right. That's right. Well, what are some of the changes that you've seen, either just in silk in general or the silk industry? Because you've been involved in that, what, 30 years now?
Oh my gosh, since the late 70s.
Yeah.
So
So
do the
what's some of the
math, I
big
don't know.
changes you've seen?
Well, the changes are good and the changes are bad. For
Mm.
the wild silk, in India, the government has a central silk board. Can you imagine having a government agency that's devoted to textiles in our countries? No, there's a Ministry of Textiles, and under the Ministry of Textiles is a central silk board. And the central silk board is a group of dedicated scientists who work in labs and work to really understand a lot about the silkworms. And so since they've been involved, since India became independent from Great Britain, since they got involved, the amount of money that the rearers make for wild silk is much better because not only are they out there with their slingshots and everything, uh, now the pollution is bad. And so the silkworms are dying because of pollution, and some of the tea gardens use pesticides. And so the kinds of things that the Central Silk Board do in their lab is they have created a probiotic that they can spray on the leaves that the silkworms eat to help them digest all the bad stuff. I mean, this is the kind of thing that they do, and they work very slowly and very respectfully with the traditional rearers. The rearers have to accept this scientific
Mm.
knowledge. So the combination of traditional knowledge, and it's like that for everything in the world. We're learning so much from our own indigenous people. The combination of traditional knowledge and scientific knowledge has really improved things for them. Now, when it comes to the Bombeck silk, one of the things that's difficult is just like for us growing food in our countries, it's difficult for people to farm. You need an area to farm. You need a proper living wage, and that is very difficult
Mm.
because there's so many things. Just think about growing food. I mean, there are farmers who lose a crop and they lose their yearly income. They really suffer that year and they just hope for more rain the next year. It's the same thing with raising silk, and there are few young people who want to take it up. The lifestyle is great when,
Mm.
there isn't a drought or there isn't a flood or whatever else is going on. But again, the money isn't nearly as big as, working with computers in an office. So the silk is going to become more and more expensive. The Bombeck silk for sure. And the wild silk, because it's just way out there and gone in the middle of nowhere. Um, Younger people did leave to go work in the cities, but now they're getting the crops are better and they're getting paid more. So some of them are coming back. So we're hopeful. We're hopeful for the wild silk. And we also always keep our hopes up for the Bombeck silk as well. So there's good and there's bad. And it's just like what's going on all over the world when it comes to the farming community.
Well, again, referring back to your book, I was reading and about your travels, and I was thinking about this was in the 70s that you first went to India,
In the 80s.
80s. And I was thinking about how, you know, no internet, no cell phone. You got to do everything through is it
Alex, yes.
telex, write letters, phone landline, which was, international phones were difficult and expensive. But I was just thinking how brave that was, how confident you were. I mean, just to go off to a country you've never been to before and go, oh, this will work. And that, just the challenges you must have encountered and kind of figured it out as you go. And I was just curious, was there a point in time that you thought, okay, I got this. I know how to make this work. We can do this. Because I'm sure it was just daunting at times.
Well, it was. And as I said, I came from a family that didn't have very much money. So I never got to do the gap year or the travel, before university or after. I never got to do any of that. So I was older. I was in my late 30s, I guess, the first time that I ever traveled. And I learned right away because I went to countries where people, English wasn't very widely spoken. But if you go with an open heart and a big smile and you learn a few words, and for me, I always traveled with a purpose. I wanted to learn something. I wanted to know about textiles. I wanted to know about dyes. I wanted to know about silk. People were so helpful. They were more than helpful. They take you to their auntie next door who was spinning, and then she would take you to the lady next door who just happened to be dying with lack that day. And everyone was just so helpful. They couldn't believe that we came from these rich countries and we were so interested in what they were doing. So they just bent over backward. But there were days, I must say, there were days when nothing worked out. You're standing at the train platform and you just say to someone, you show them where you're going, and they get this look of panic on their face and they go, no, and they point over to the other side of the tracks, and up you go and over, and you get down and the train is just about ready to leave and you hop on, and it's like, oh my God, can I continue to do this? I mean, there's lots of those, but the majority of it was just, like I said, the open heart and a smile just takes you miles and miles and miles.
Well, I encourage everyone to, if you get a chance, get her book, or if your guild has a copy of it, read it. It's a lot about silk, but it's about the whole process of meeting these people. It's wonderful just to hear the stories and kind of get an idea of what that must have been like at the time.
Well,
Um,
I'll explain that a little bit. When I started writing the book, when I travel, I keep a journal. I've
Oh,
always
okay.
kept a journal up, so I could write things down. And as I was starting to write the book, I really didn't want it to be academic. Like I said, it's all about the people. So, when I learned things, I didn't learn them in order because when you go, sometimes you see the caterpillar, sometimes you see the moth, sometimes you see the
Oh,
baby.
yeah. You're right.
Sometimes you don't see anything because the night before they all died because of a fungus. I mean, that happened. So I learned, it wasn't sequential the way I learned things. I had to piece it all together like a puzzle. Um, Anyway, so as I was writing, I thought, these journal entries, I'm actually talking to the people and they're telling me about their family, how many children they have, how much they earn. And I thought, this is what I love. This is why I was doing what I was doing. So there is the part in the book about, the silkworms and everything else, but it's filled with what I call journal entries. And that's the personal stories that I share from the rears and the weavers and the spinners and reelers that I was so fortunate to meet through all those 30 years of research.
Well, I when I started doing the research to do this, I thought I need three different episodes with you. I need us, growing everything about silkworm episode. I need the artist episode, and I need the travel episode. So, from someone who is a businesswoman, an artist, a world traveler, an author, and someone who just thinks outside the box, what is next for you?
Well, probably more of what I'm doing these days. We've always had a big veggie garden. We're nearly self-sufficient with all of our berries and our fruit, and we even grow our own quinoa and veggies and things like that. So the garden is huge. And right now, the end of August, I sort of feel like I want to be done with it. Oh, what can I do? What more can I do with all these tomatoes, et cetera, et cetera? So for me, it's the garden, not only the veggie garden, but it's important for me to be surrounded by beauty. So it is the perennial gardens as well, and botanical printing.
Right, right, right.
I just can't get enough of it, because every time I do something, it's a surprise and it's another release of what the plants decide they want to give me. And it's more of me learning about the plants. Some are acidic, some are have tannin in, and some just have a lot of pigment in them. So it's just this amazing journey of learning more about plants. My huge love affair with plants.
Well, we're going to keep an eye on you and see what you're up to next. We don't have a lot of time, but there's a couple of questions I'd like to grab real quick. A lot of this you've already answered. So, um, some people are talking about whether or not they're growing silkworms in their house. That's another story. Um, yeah, somebody wants to know, can you do it as an at home hobby, but they don't have
Growing
mulberry bushes?
silkworms?
Yeah.
Growing, yes, you can. If you've got a mulberry tree or access to a mulberry tree, I grew silkworms for years and years. I used to take them to convergence to show people. So yes, you can, but you need to have access to a mulberry tree.
Yeah, that may be this is from Sandra. Sandra, that may be your issue. You may have to find somebody that does have mulberry. I know Cassie Dixon was on here when she used to talk about the family knew that they were driving down the road and she'd go, mulberry. They'd stop the car and just, throw leaves in off the tree on the side of the road. So just figure out where's the closest mulberry bush for you, then and you can get all those things. So there you go. Oh,
You can
somebody
go
said
to
that you can
your
get.
garden club will tell you. Your garden club will be able to tell you who's got mulberry leaves, who's
Well,
got
Karen
mulberry tree.
Williams is saying that Bombex sells mulberry chow,
Yes,
like
they do.
dog chow.
Well, that works for the first 2 weeks.
Oh,
It looks sort of like, at least the stuff I've seen. Maybe there's different stuff now. But it looks a little bit like a granola bar. And when
oh,
the
okay.
babies are a week to 2 weeks old, they easily feed on that. But after 2 weeks, they live for about 4 weeks. After that, I didn't have any success. They just were not thriving. I had to get leaves for them. They didn't thrive on that chow. But
Hmm.
again, it's been a number of years, so maybe the chow is better these days.
This is a great question from Karen Williams, and I think I read about this in your book. She said, "Can you talk about silk penduncle? Am I saying that right?
Yes, it's a
And what it
pedal.
is?" And she says she enjoys spinning it, but she cannot wrap her mind about what it is and how is it collected.
Oh, I'm so excited you asked that question. And you use the word wrap. This is important. Okay. There are two types of tussa silk, tropical and temperate. And the silk that I know the best, and in India they call it tussar, Tasar. Same. It's just they call it tussar. And the tropical tussar silkworm, unlike any other silk caterpillar, and there's over 500 varieties in the world actually, but only about 7 that we can get the silk out of. Anyway, this guy is amazing. When it is ready to start spinning its cocoon, it will, with its little mandibles, it will take a strip of bark off of a branch. It will extrude some silk and it will take that bark and it will put it around the branch, and then there's a stem. Peduncle means stem. You and I have a peduncle in our body. The stem that attaches our brain to our vertebrae is called a peduncle. So that peduncle, then the silkworm will get a leaf and it kind of wraps it around itself like a robe, and it hangs from that peduncle, and it spends 3 days to spin its huge cocoon. And the peduncle is that stem. So uh, when they harvest those cocoons, they actually cut the branches and they slide the peduncle off, because there's this little round part that went over the branch, and then there's the stem, and that's the peduncle. Now, it is hard. As I said, there's some tree bark in there. So the village that I went to and watched the women work with the peduncle so that you and I have a fiber to work with. Wow. First of all, they boil and boil and boil. Then they throw it out onto their concrete patio. It's not a patio, but and then with bamboo, they beat and beat and beat this stuff. Then they boil some more and beat some more and boil some more and beat some more. And then it goes through what other fiber does, the carding and the combing. So that's what the peduncle is. And it's always a darker color because that peduncle is a really dark brown near black. That's what peduncle is. It's pretty special. And it's only the tropical silkworm that makes a peduncle.
Now, can you get that like from Tringway or someplace like that?
You can. You
Okay.
can.
I bet a bunch of people are going to go check it out now.
It's pretty special. And the
Oh my
color is
gosh.
really wonderful.
You know, it's so funny. It's like weavers are reluctant. Well, I should say I'm reluctant to weave with expensive yarn like silk because it's like I don't want to mess it up. It costs so much money. And as you were talking, I thought if I made that, I probably would never weave with it because it took so much work to make it that I don't know that I could risk ruining it. Huh. So I will look at it differently from now on. I'll tell you that. That's amazing.
I know that thought process, Kathy, but you have to change it. And no matter what you do, like I do with my botanical printing at the pot, you
Uh-huh.
use it. And as you're using it, you just say, I'm grateful for what you
It's
give me.
I like that. I'm gonna have to keep that in mind. We're getting ready to do a dye. A bunch of us are gonna do dyeing, and I'm gonna do that instead of getting caught up in if it came out right or wrong. I'm gonna just say, whatever you give me, thank you so much, because I have to do that.
And you'll always be able to use it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I hate to say this, but we have to stop. And
Well,
everybody's talking about, we want another episode. We want another episode. Thank you so much for being here today, Karen. This has been great.
well, I've just enjoyed it so much. And thank you for having me. And I'm glad that there's silk lovers out there because it's such an amazing fiber.
Well, there's a group of people already talking about let's do a road trip. So you may have some people showing up on your doorstep. I would make sure it's during when you're harvesting and put us all to work.
Okay, it's just about time to harvest the
There you
apples now.
go. I encourage you all to go check out Karen's website, karenselk.com. And I know a lot of you, I didn't get to your questions, and I'm so sorry. And some of them are pretty technical, and I would encourage you to contact Karen directly so that you can get the answers that you want. But there's plenty of pictures of her work. Oh, more pictures than we saw today. So I encourage you to go check that out. You can find out about her book. And again, she didn't pay me to promote her book, but it is pretty amazing. I would encourage you to take a look at it. So thank
Thank
you
you,
so much,
Kathy.
Karen.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed my day so much.
Oh, good, 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 good. Happy chai.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.
And today we need to thank Melody Usher and Pam Basant. Pam and Melody, thank you so much for being our Textiles and Tea Angels. We appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed this. It was pretty amazing to have such a great program today. And we thank you so much for being our sponsors. If you would like to sponsor an episode of Textiles and Tea, or your group or your guild, your business, if you have an event coming up that you want to let people know about, this is a great way to do it. Please go online and you can select the date that's available and purchase it online. If you have questions, contact the office and I'm sure they'll help you any way that they can. We also want to remind everybody that we're still working away on convergence. And I've told this to a couple of groups I've met with already, but we have some incredible tours for New Orleans. And I would encourage you to take a look at it. There are ones where they're going to look at that image at the top. They're going to look at all the Mardi Gras stuff. It's called A Day of Mardi Gras Magic. You're going to look at the costumes, the culture, and the celebration. And one of the things that you're going to do is see the black masking Indians. And of course, the taste of a king cake. If you've not ever had king cake, it's pretty cool. But it's just amazing because they store all this stuff in these big warehouses, and you're going to go see some of that things some of the things from the different Mardi Gras parades. The second tour, you'll visit with the textile archives at several historic New Orleans sites and learn the history behind some of these works. It's a great behind the scene experience that's not open to all the public. We're getting a really special tour. The third tour will be going to visit the New Orleans with an immersion art experience where you can touch and hear about art that is a visit to an artist. And you can meet with 11 different artists at this collective and explore their studios. And the last tour will be to Baton Rouge, where you will explore the Acadian textiles. We're trying to do a lot of Acadian stuff this while we're down in New Orleans. If you're not familiar with it, go check it out a little bit. You're going to step into the archives at LSU, at Louisiana State University, and you'll see the preserved works and historical documents. And you're going to hear about Jerry Hale, who is working with local spinners and weavers to conserve brown cotton. Again, if you're not familiar with brown cotton, go look it up. It's a very Acadian a thing, and it's grown there in several other places, but it's pretty popular there. The immersion tour offers a one-of-a-kind opportunity to see, learn, and connect with the threads that continue to shape Louisiana's fiber culture. So anyway, great tours, very much New Orleans only, Louisiana only. So if you're interested, go take a look. I think you can even sign up for them already, but go take a look at them at wespendie.org and go look at the convergence material about the conference next summer and sign up before they fill up. So thank you all so much for taking a look at those. Thank you for supporting HGA by being a member or donating. You can go to weavespendie.org and either join or donate or both. And we appreciate all that support that keeps our programs going. Next week, we've got, oh, well, we haven't had change. We had somebody on board, and Liz, can you put her name up here for me? I've already forgotten who it was. We had someone, but due to a family emergency, she's not going to be able to be with us. So next week we have somebody who's jumped in there, and I'm getting to it. Ruth Hollows. Ruth, I'm so sorry. But she has been so sweet. We had her booked and she's changed her date to come be with us next week because the person we had on had already reserved. We're gonna have to change her date and put her at a different one. So thank you so much, Ruth. We're gonna talk with her next week about her work. Thank you all so much for being here today. We appreciate it. Hope you all have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week. Happy tea.